firstly, if we could have a quick introduction on yourselves and what you do and where you're working at the moment.
Yeah, totally. So we are twins. I'm Jess, and that's Lucy. We just turned 30. So our birthday was this weekend.
Oh, happy birthday!
Yeah, very exciting. New decade. And I live in London, and I work for the Ironman group. So our main property is the Ironman Triathlon series. I work in partnerships there, so with our sponsors for our global series and then event-specific sponsors. It's fantastic. I absolutely love it. Our events are incredible and so inspiring. And yeah, it's a bit sad because Lucy recently moved out of London, but she has a very exciting new opportunity there. So I'll hand over to you, Luce.
Yeah, are you saying new? I've been working at Strava now since August, so kind of four months or so down. But yeah, so I live in Bristol, and I work at Strava, and I also manage partnerships and a bit of business development as well. So I presume most people know what Strava is, but if you don't, it's kind of like a social network for athletes. It's an opportunity for athletes to log their training activities, and it breaks down your activities with various different data points, so you can really analyze your performance. But it's also much more than that. It's kind of, as I said before, a social community. So you can follow your friends, you can follow pros, you can join clubs, there are group challenges you can join. It's really kind of interacting with other athletes to help motivate you to achieve your training goals, whatever they might be. Yeah, and I used to work at Ironman as well, actually. So
that's nice that you both can work together, but now I'm sure it's quite different that you're apart now and not together. So you're both from working in quite sporty companies, which is really cool. So for yourselves, have you ever done a triathlon yourselves?
Yeah, we've both done a few. So we kind of started out as runners. So we started running when we were about 9 years old, and we did cross country and athletics throughout our school, our time at school, really. So a little bit competitive, but kind of just on a local level. So nothing international or anything like that. And then we went to university together in Exeter. And we started doing some longer distance running then. So we did a couple of half marathons. That's where we started doing half marathons in Exeter, which was awesome. Moved to London together after uni. And then we, I think because we both bought bikes and started cycling, we started cycling to work. So I got a little bit into the cycling scene. And then we just thought, why not do a triathlon? It sounds super fun. We kind of used to do some swimming when we were younger as well. So in 2015, we signed up to our first triathlon, the London Triathlon. And we haven't really looked back, to be honest. We just got completely hooked. We loved it so much. We loved the training. We loved the racing experience. And yeah, so since then, we've done quite a few Olympic distance. So the standard distance triathlons. Including, yeah, in London and then around a few around in the countryside as well. And then in 2019, we kind of took it up a level and moved on to half Ironman distance. So I did 70.3 Staffordshire in the UK. And Lucy did a couple. So Lucy,
I decided to just go for it. I decided 2019, I'm just gonna join a club, like join a proper triathlon club, see like how fast I can go at the 70.3 half Ironman distance. So I took it quite seriously in 2019. I did Ironman 70.3 Turkey and Ironman 70.3 Italy, and I actually qualified for the World Championships in Italy, and it was really incredible just to have that training plan set to you by a coach. I mean, I'm sure we can talk about this a bit more later on, but yeah, it was really, really cool. So it was a big part of my life a couple of years ago, and still like love triathlon, but don't take it quite as seriously as I used to.
Yeah, you kind of went pretty semi-professional, I'd say. I definitely went to that level. But we so since then, obviously it was 2020. we didn't really do too much, but I've currently been focusing on 10K and a half marathon. But we've both signed up to Ironman 70.3 Nice in June next year. So we've got a new goal that we're starting to prepare for now.
That's cool. That's nice that you both had the same interest as well. I mean, that's really cool that you're twins and you both went to the same uni and doing triathlons together. That's really nice. So out of all of them, what do you think was your biggest challenge, or anything coming up in the triathlon that's your biggest challenge?
Luce?
For me, the biggest challenge is the swim. And I think a lot of people will say that. Lots of people like kind of a bit freaked out by swimming in open water, you know, especially in the sea when you've got a current, you've got thousands of other athletes swimming around you. It's not, you know, it's not your standard lane swimming in a pool. And also lots of people do running. It's very easy to put a pair of trainers on and just go out on a run. And cycling, you know, some people get more into that than others, but swimming is something that, holds a lot of people back. And I think it's not, you know, you just need to break it down. Like the distance isn't that bad. You know, you're wearing a wetsuit, which actually gives you additional buoyancy. So it means you are able to like float better than if you weren't wearing one. And there's so many other people in the same situation. Like I joined a club where you can train with other people your age and make some friends and get some professional coaching. And really like try not to panic about it, basically. Also, it's the first leg in a triathlon distance. So once the swim is over and done with, it's like a breeze from then on.
I'd say my biggest challenge is bike mechanics. So, I mean, whether I could change a tire on a bike, I'm still not sure. It's pretty terrible. We actually both have tubeless tires, which means you're much less likely to get a puncture. So that would be my tip. But otherwise, I mean, there are some quite good sessions you can go to that are run by bike shops where they kind of take you through the A to Z of how to look after your bike, how to take care of it, what happens if you get a puncture or something else happens. And then also just, I guess, try not to panic if something does go wrong. It could be out on a long ride when you're training or in the race. I think you just have to try and stay calm and ideally kind of practice those situations as well so that you don't kind of completely fall apart in the race. But it happens to everyone. But definitely not my strongest point.
Well, thank you. It's nice to hear really that you guys have done all these triathlons, but still there are little things that challenge you, because we have in our triathlons, we do the Winchester Triathlon, and we get a lot of first timers in that triathlon every year. The idea of it is to try and get people into doing triathlons. So we do have a lot of first timers that may not have the right kit. And in particular, a lot of women often take part in our triathlon as their first one. And Caitlin's got some female specific questions for you, if you don't mind, just to help our female first timers that take part.
Yeah, so like Abby said, we want to get more women involved in triathlon, and just some questions really to ease their mind going into their first triathlon. So what would you say would be like race day essentials? What do you need to take with you?
Race day essentials: nutrition. That you so many people overlook nutrition, and it's so important. Or understandably, you know, if you're not doing a huge distance, if you're just doing an Olympic distance or a sprint, you don't need to overthink it too much. And the worst thing to do is to suddenly try eating something new that you've never eaten before. Like that's the worst thing you could do, because your stomach will be like, what's this? Just, you know, I would say, and also people overdo the carb loading. You know, you need to make sure you eat some simple, complex carbs the day before and in the morning, but you don't need to eat like a ton, like 2 tons of pasta, you know, because you'll probably be thinking the swim and you'll feel really gross and full. But, you know, try to cut down on fiber. So fruit and veg, you know, you should like minimize that the day before, because, you know, you don't want a funny tummy or anything during the run. And yeah, just simple food, like plain pasta with some cheese, you know, porridge in the morning. It's not rocket science, but definitely don't overthink it. And make sure you've got some glucose while you're out on course as well. So some energy gels, or, you know, some people prefer real food. Like my friend likes a peanut butter and jam sandwich. But just the key thing as well, as I said before, is just to try it in advance. Don't do anything new on race day. In your training, like try out what gels you might like to try, what bars or etc. and hydrate as well.
I think if I may just add to that, Luce, I think if we're looking at like women specific, something that I think a lot of women don't, because, you know, you're maybe just, if you're on a diet to go on holiday or something, like it's absolutely not what your mentality should be for racing. You know, you need to fuel your body to get through it and to enjoy it. If you don't have enough energy, you're going to feel rubbish, you're going to hate it. And it's really like about being clever, taking what you need, the bars, the gels and things. You know, it's probably better to take one too many than one too less. If I think
there's so many, you know, guidelines online, or, you know, join a club, speak to a coach, speak to someone else who's done one to give you some advice, so you're not going in blind. Just
also
be prepared.
proper nutrition after the event, like refuel with a proper meal with you know, your protein, your carbs. You know, you need to be kind of thinking about the whole holistic bigger picture of nutrition as well, I think, which I do think a lot of women don't necessarily do. Like a lot of my 20s in particular, say if I was doing first time, I'd be like picking at food throughout the day. Maybe if you're going out and boozing a lot, you know, it's probably not the best if you're going to be wanting to perform. And then other tips for women, I'd say maybe women should be a little bit more conscious of their clothing, and especially the weather conditions. I mean, it's the same for men and women, but women might get a bit colder. So maybe if it's like a cold day, take a light windproof jacket. And then you can always, for the bike, if you get too hot, you can always take it off and roll it up and put it in your bag. Put it in your pocket, and maybe some gloves as well. Whereas some bigger men might not get as cold. And then also having some good cycling shorts or a good tri-suit with like the correct padding around the bum, etc.
Definitely.
You can, and I would definitely go for a female specific shorts, because they're just made to fit female body shape better. There are a couple of brands that do it really well. Santini, actually a partner of ours, and they do super amazing products for women. I'm sure there are others out there as well. I think that's really key, and it's probably the same for both genders, but if it's hot, a hat or a visor for the run is absolutely key.
And first and foremost, bring a good attitude and enjoy it. Honestly, like, it sounds silly, but if you don't enjoy it, you know, what's the point of doing it?
Definitely.
And don't panic, stay calm.
Those are some really helpful tips.
And so the next question I have is, what would you suggest would be like the best hairstyle for women? Because I know a lot of people, even when I went swimming quite a lot in the summer, even putting all my hair into like a swimming cap was a problem. So I just don't know if you have any tips on what women can do about that.
Personally, I love the battle braids. So Lucy Charles, I don't know if you've heard of Lucy Charles, but she's a really big Ironman triathlete. She's
trying to qualify for the Olympics now.
Sorry?
She's trying to qualify for the Olympics.
Is she?
Now.
Anyway, she is a real advocate for the battle braids. So it's either 2 plaits or 1 plait. I personally go for 1 plait, but lots of people like 2, just because it's easy to fold it up into a cap. And then as soon as you take the swimming hat off, it folds down, and you can put your cycle helmet on and take the cycle helmet off, and you've not got hair flapping around everywhere. That would be my go-to personally. Yeah,
or if you've got shorter hair, I just do a little low ponytail, like just at the back, because you've got to put your helmet. You don't want anything too high, because your helmet will get stuck on it. And maybe some clips on the side.
Thank you. I know you did briefly touch on it, on like what you should maybe invest in, but would you say, like, if for our first timers, because you know they're just trying it out, is there one particular item that they should spend a bit more money on going into the triathlon?
Ooh, that's a difficult question. Presuming that they've already got a bike, I would say, the tri-suit and the wetsuit. The wetsuit, it's not so much how much money you spend, but the wetsuit you really have to make sure fits you properly. Because if the wetsuit is slightly too big, it will just, loads of water will like escape inside it, and it just won't be a fluid movement. So the wetsuit you really need to make sure fits. You probably try it on, and if it feels a bit too small, it's probably right. Like it should feel very, very tight.
Yeah, I don't think you need to spend a huge amount. I mean, I did my half Ironman in a wetsuit that cost about £70.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah.
I mean, if I was going to do a lot more, I'll probably buy a new one. But as Lou said, it's making sure that it just fits.
Make sure it fits. And then with the tri-suit, that's when you need decent padding in. If you're going to wear a tri-suit rather than cycle shorts, which most people will, is just making sure it's got decent padding so you're comfortable on the bike. So probably the tri-suit. And
also I would say the running trainers, because you need shoes that are going to look after your feet and also that suit your body. And if that means investing a bit more, I think that's worth it.
Yeah. And again, I'll keep going back to it, but don't try anything new on race day. You know, don't try a new pair of trainers or a new tri-suit. You know, like make sure you've practiced in what you're going to wear on race day.
Lovely, thank you. And my final question is, what do you both wish you knew before you started doing triathlons?
Oh my gosh.
What do you want to go, Jess? I wish.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just wish that it was like not seen as such a. Like obviously, it's a huge achievement, and it's amazing when you cross that finish line and like, wow, I've done all this training and now I've achieved it and everything. But it's, you know, at first it was quite a daunting prospect, and it would have been nice for someone to be like, actually, it's not that big a deal, you know, like it's a great challenge, but you can definitely do it. Like, don't be so scared, you know.
Like we need to have listened to this chat before our first.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I slept for about 2 hours the night before.
If that.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. I wish I mean, not necessarily something I wish I'd known, but I wish I'd been a little bit more organized for my transitions, because they've historically been pretty terrible for me. And you can, if you're looking for a faster time, you can make that up quite a bit in transition, but just make sure you've got your space nice and clean, nice and prepared and everything. But otherwise I think I totally agree with Lucy. It's like you actually are going to have so much fun, so try and just think of that positive and excitement rather than being really scared.
And also, you know, join a local club if you want to make some friends as well. And it really helps with the training, because you're not doing it on your own, you're doing it with like-minded people. You can, you know, there's so much extra support as well. I really, really loved the club that I joined, met so many friends for life through it as well. And it's nice to have that community feel. There's so many different clubs out there.
Yeah, there are. There's a lot in the area as well, and a few that take part. So really encouraging our triathletes to take part in the clubs is something that we definitely need to push a bit more. Yeah, thank you for them. I think Tom, our marketing coordinator, has got some marketing specific questions to ask you.
First question then, how does Strava and Ironman motivate consumers to complete challenges?
Yeah, I'll go first. There's quite a few different angles that Ironman take on this. And the first is kind of looking at the reward and the achievement. So focusing maybe on like imagery of the medal and the finish line, and also user-generated content like of people with their medal and kind of saying how happy they are that they achieved this. And people quite like to show off, especially if they've done an Ironman. It's like a pretty big deal. So one of our sayings is that you can brag for the rest of your life if you've done an Ironman. So we really try and encourage that. Yeah. The second one is we kind of pick up on the quirks of the triathlon community. So people kind of get a little bit obsessed and really into it, and there are some kind of, maybe from the outside looking in, seem a bit strange, but when you're in the bubble, they're totally normal. Like people who kind of get up at 4 or 5 a.m. for their first training session of the day, people who maybe they don't see their partner very much or the rest of their family because they're just so committed, or we sometimes do like, we'll open questions out to the community, like tell us you're a triathlete without telling us you're a triathlete, or show us you're a triathlete without showing us you're a triathlete. And it's like kind of picking up on the humor and the quirks. And for example, in 2020 during COVID, there were so many creative ways that people tried to keep training and things that we like to showcase. That I'm sure you guys probably did similar, but that kind of twist of the humor of it is quite a good one. And then inspiring stories. So we try to when people sign up for an Ironman, they can like let us know if there's a specific story behind them signing up, if they're doing it for a cause, if they have any kind of special journey that they've been on. And then we pick out a few stories and we showcase them. So if someone's had something traumatic happen, or an accident, or it could be something positive, but how Ironman has like changed their life essentially. And we like to showcase those stories. Maybe we create some content with them, or we get them to share their own user-generated content. But we really like to help that, and it really inspires other people through those stories. And then finally, we have a few different programs. So we have we call it the All World Athlete Program. So if you do more than 2 of our events, so if you do a third, then you become a member of the All World Athlete Program, which is like an exclusive club, and you get a gold coloured hat for the swim with All World Athlete on the side, so everyone knows you're an All World Athlete. Yeah, and you get other benefits. For example, I think you get priority registration, you get priority bike racking on site, a few other things like that. And we have a kind of similar thing for tri clubs. So if tri clubs bring a certain number of people to our events, then they get some benefits as well. And we also have kind of tri club specific awards and podiums, and they have their own little like competitions within the tri clubs, which is quite fun. Luce?
And Strava, what do they do to motivate consumers to complete challenges?
Oh, I mean, I'm not, there's too many to go through. I'll just pick a few of my favorites. So if I was a brand, there are a couple of key different ways that I would work with Strava. So one is by creating a Strava club. So it's a bit like brands have a Facebook page or an Instagram account where they can have their own Strava club, and people can follow that club. So they'll have, some of our clubs like Nicole have 500,000 followers in their club, and it's like a little interactive community of athletes, of really like-minded athletes, and you can create events, you can just blog posts, content platform, basically a bit like Facebook and Instagram, as I said. So that's one way, and it's totally free as well, free of charge for the brands. So that's definitely something to make use of. And then secondly, we do partner challenges on Strava. So a brand like such as, I don't know, Nicole, as I said, again, I mean, it could have been more imaginative. They can set up a challenge with us. So for example, over Christmas, we're working with Brooks, and it's like 24K over 24 days. So they're challenging people to run 24K over the Advent period in December. And you can sign up. We have a challenge gallery on our platform, and you can sign up to whatever challenges you want. And it's just like a nice little motivating tool for you to work towards. And then once you have completed the challenge, if you manage to complete it successfully, you are eligible to redeem a reward that the brand offers. So sometimes it's like an entry into a prize draw to win a big prize. Sometimes it's a discount code for money off a product. Some brands do some really, really cool prizes. We actually worked with Red Bull Germany a couple of months ago with Ironman. I did a joint a really difficult challenge was to complete an Ironman distance over a weekend. So obviously, like, not very many people signed up and completed the challenge, because it's pretty tough to complete that distance over a weekend. But the prize was for a training experience at Red Bull HQ in Austria. So which was amazing. But then on the other range, you've got, like run 5K in October, and you'll win like a discount code. Like, there's such a range of different things. But it's just really nice for people to have something to motivate them. that is already really accessible in the challenge gallery, because some people struggle to kind of figure their own, what their own goals and challenges are going to be. So it's very like Strava just has it all on the platform, and it's fun, and you can like get some great prizes and stuff. So yeah, those are probably the two top ways that we would work with brands. But we also sponsor a lot of events and work with like athletes, as Jess said, like pro athletes, but also just like influencing people with great stories, everyday athletes who've done something quite remarkable. We really like to kind of promote those on our platform as well. So yeah.
That kind of leads me on to my next question, which is, how does Strava create a sense of community and togetherness in sport? So that's the wide platform to use, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. So I think historically Strava's been seen as a bit of a activity upload, and that's about it. But it's actually, I find myself scrolling. Obviously, I work for Strava, but scrolling through Strava, seeing what my friends have been doing, what have they been running, what events have they been doing. You can follow pro athletes as well, which is so inspiring. So you can see like what they're like, how they're training, and it's quite like fun as well. You can write fun comments under your uploads, and it's really made to be interactive and like a supportive community. And you can click through. So if I've seen Jess has done this really cool ride, I can click on her activity and I can go and do that ride myself if I wanted to, or I can like click through to see what event it was. Like, oh, that triathlon looks great, and you can click through to that triathlon page. So it's really good for like discovery of new routes and new events, as well as just like what your like your community of friends, but also community of wider athletes, pros as well. It's really, really great in that sense.
Cool. Which type of media does Ironman benefit from most, and what would you recommend for promoting triathlon for us?
Do you mean what exactly do you mean?
So does it benefit, do you like videos, or is it just posts for signing up, or what's kind of attracting people to go, I want to do a triathlon?
It's a great question. We're doing a lot more longer form content now than we ever have. So for example, when we're looking at the inspiring stories, so we've recently been following a guy called Chris Nickage, who's the first person with Down syndrome to complete an Ironman, and he's trying to get to Kona. Sorry, I'm just going to cancel that. He's trying to race in Kona, etc. So longer form pieces for that. But then we do use Facebook as our main social platform, Facebook and Instagram. So obviously there we would cut down any kind of content to under a minute. But short form videos, and we quite often like highlight the race destination. If it's a really cool or really beautiful race location, then we'll use a lot of that kind of imagery, motivational quotes, maybe on a graphic, and a lot on the pro athletes as well, because people like to know what the pros are doing and use like their tips and things. So we create graphics with like visuals of the pros, and we see that's pretty that works pretty well. And then also we do tend to sell out of our races quite fast, so we do also kind of look at that angle of, we've got this many entries to go, you don't want to miss out on this opportunity, as another angle as well.
One more question.
Yeah, probably one more. So how can ReesLeisure effectively encourage our customers to use Strava prior to and during an event?
How can we encourage athletes to use Strava during the event?
Yeah, and just prior to it, and just try to promote
it. Prior to it, I would just say, in terms of just helping motivate your training, and it's also like you can log all your training activities as well, and you can follow other athletes who are also signed up to that event. You can join clubs with like-minded athletes. There'll be lots of people with the same common goal, and it's just nice to have that community feel to it. During the event itself, usually you'd be wearing some kind of device like a smartwatch, a Garmin, that would then automatically upload your activities to Strava after the event. It's not really something that you can use live unless you're allowed to take like a mobile phone or something out with you. Having said that, if you are following a route and you're using Strava for that, you can follow a route on Strava, and it will give you guidelines on elevation and what your average time is and how much distance you have left. But usually people would just take a smart watch or a bike computer or something out with them.
Perfect.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been great. I've learned a lot, and we've definitely got a lot to give out to our triathletes, our first timers, because our event's coming up in May next year, which we're really looking forward to. So, yeah, thank you. That was so good. We've learned so much.
So helpful.
Great.